me feeling like I'm academics.
Z, clearly they're paying a cop that's working. First of all, everybody knows TMZ pays cops in the LAPD. They pay cops. That's how they always get a lot of exclusive stuff. You know, they'll say they have a source, but their source is the detectives who'll just take money and just give them the info. So since this is happening and it's being investigated in LA, you would believe that TMZ is going to get the sources before whatever. So the police are being tight-lipped about it. They're not trying to say too much about this whole David thing. And TMZ has exclusively reported before that he's now a suspect. And not only is he now a suspect, they're saying there's possibly a second suspect, but there's some more developments about this situation with the death of Celeste Rivas. And is it Rivas or Rivera? I'm sorry. And this David guy who's an artist, they're now calling him an uncooperative suspect. They're saying he's not really working with police anymore, but check this out.
In the Celeste Rivas death, TMZ has learned that her body had been frozen. And when it was found, it was still partially frozen in the back of David's car. And it was in...
Now, I don't know which show I've watched. Which show have I watched, chat? So supposedly, if you freeze the human body, it even in post, once a human body has been frozen, I think it's Dexter. I'm sorry, yeah, Dexter. I love Dexter. Anybody love Dexter in here? Dexter's such a great show. Netflix, bring Dexter back. I've watched it 15 times. I want to watch it 16. And I'm talking about the whole every episode. So the way they could tell is that when you freeze a body, the blood cells and everything else, when they get frozen, even after they've been defrosted, they're deformed a certain type of way. So through an autopsy, it could be found out that, oh, this body has been frozen. So it's not that they're going to find the body and it's like fucking like ice all around it. But what extreme cold and freezing a corpse does to cells and blood vessels within the body is actually something that changes kind of like the body on an anatomic level that could be seen in an autopsy. So that's how they probably figured that out.
It was still partially frozen in the back of David's car, and it was in such bad condition that we are told the medical examiner may never be able to establish the cause of death.
Wow.
So here's what we know. When the body was found, it was in terrible condition. It had been decapitated. The torso was intact.
Is decapitated means head removed or just like body parts removed? Let's Google that. Decapitate. Oh, decapitated means head from the body. Wow. Chat, if someone helped remove this young girl's head from her body, like, shouldn't they also face like damn near up to life? What the hell? Decapitated. Wow.
When the body was found, it was in terrible condition. It had been decapitated. The torso was intact. The limbs had been removed and they were cut up severely. The body was partially frozen in the trunk. And this is really important because remember, the body had been sitting there for days before it was finally impounded and then the body discovered. And it was still, the body parts were still partially frozen. So we are told that when the body first went...
Yo, who'da knowda on Rumble? You are fucked up. Talking about, damn, they had homegirl chopped up like some oxtails. That is not funny. That's not funny. Come on. Come on now.
To the medical examiner's office in early September. It was listed as an apparent homicide, but that was just from what seemed obvious, that the body was cut up into pieces. The medical examiner is having a really tough time right now trying to figure out what the cause of death was. We are told...
By the way, did they ever release the body to the family that they could bury the body? Because the medical examiner has to be complete with their obviously you're going to take samples, this and third, pictures and whatever. But, at some point you got to release the body to the family that they can bury it, right? You know what I mean? Like, shit, it's, traditional. Or do they still have the body? Probably still like, trying to figure out new tests or whatever they could figure out to try to figure out what happened to this person.
It is likely the cause of death will go undetermined because of the condition of the body and the fact that it was frozen and the fact that it was cut up the way it was. So we have told you that we know David is a suspect, and even if it is undetermined, the LAPD can still move forward, as could the LA County District Attorney. The LAPD is viewing this as a homicide. David is a suspect. We know this. And one of the keys to the case is a trip that authorities say David made in the middle of the night back in this spring to a remote area of Santa Barbara County. We are now also told that there is a second suspect, and our information is that the second suspect has something to do with the cutting up of the body. Now, Mark Garagos, who is my co-host on the Two Angry Men podcast, told us in the most recent podcast that his information is that this second suspect is being looked at not just for dismembering the body, but also for what happened before, during, and after Celeste's death. So there is a second suspect that the LAPD has its sights on. They have identified the person. Garriga says he knows who it is, not saying, but it is a second suspect implicated here. So obviously the question, how on earth did this body go from Santa Barbara, if that's indeed where it was taken? And that seems to be the operating theory of the LAPD, that if it was taken to Santa Barbara, how did it end up back in Los Angeles in the trunk of David's car in a residential neighborhood? The only thing that makes sense, and that's months and months later, the only thing that makes sense is that based on connecting the dots, it would seem that this body was put in a freezer for an extended period of time, and it was so frozen that by the time it got in the car, it took a long time for it to unfreeze, and it had not fully unfrozen at the time the body was discovered at the impound lot. So again, it looks like there may never be a cause of death determined by the medical examiner. The body was frozen. Can you just keep looking at TMZ?
Oh, by the way, on Dexter, you know I figured out that fact from, and I did some Googling on it. It was about the freezing and what it does to like the cells or whatever. It was, they had like the ice truck killer in Dexter. Yeah, the person used to freeze the bodies.
We will have more updates as the days pass.
Wow. So look like there is some developments. It's just that we don't know what's gonna happen, and look like maybe an arrest is imminent. We just don't know when. Huh. I would think an arrest is imminent. We did play this already, right?
Or have been determined.
No. So like I said, it's a reasonable suspicion. And so those homicide detectives with LAPD, which my biased opinion are probably the best in the world, they're going to run down every single lead to make sure that they have the right person. And they're also going to look into hypotheses that don't lead to him to make sure they have the right person, because ultimately their goal is to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. So they can't just go out and decide, okay, this is a suspect, and then focus their entire investigation on him or her. They have to run out all the leads to make sure they have the right person.
When I mentioned whiplash before, you can understand why I said that, right? I mean, if the reporting, you take all the reporting is true, that LAPD comes out and said there's no arrests that are on the horizon, and yet now it's being reported he may be a suspect. Can two things be true at once? Can he be a suspect, but there's no arrest that's imminent?
Absolutely. So like I said, they still have to do their investigation. They don't want to arrest anybody and then have to release them because they got the wrong person. So they're still gathering their information. They're still interviewing people. They're still waiting for the ME or the toxicology reports to come back, because somebody of this profile, and then frankly, they've been burned in the past by pulling the trigger, so to speak, too soon. The DA's office wants to make sure all the ducks are in a row before they move on anybody that's involved in this.
Before I even go into, this possibly being investigated as a homicide, if this is true, do you think he's been a suspect for quite some time? Why do I say that? Do you think David knew that he was being classified as a suspect? If it's true, we don't know for sure. Hired Blair Burke, this high-powered criminal defense attorney to very prominent stars, hired her last month, transferred homes to his mother's name. Do you think it is possible that we may only...
All right, so I think at some point this guy is going to get arrested. He's going to have to, I do want to think, though, that it's not cut and dry. I know some of y'all might be like, yo, I think the police are really getting like this ironclad case. No, they just need, like, you don't know what he's doing right now. He could be trying to like talk to people who might be whatever to like cover up the crime. You want to get him in custody. That's what I would believe the police want to do. So if they're taking this long, I think that, there's a lot of things that they don't know or they can't exactly prove yet. And that gives them some leeway that I think he's going to get charged, but he might beat this shit, right? Like, again, if y'all are saying y'all can't determine how the person died, like, shit, that's a defense already. How you know I killed him? You don't even know how they died. How do you know I killed him? So, looks like that's going to happen. By the way, we haven't heard that he hired any lawyers there, but that's probably to come. But they're saying that there is someone else who helped. I wonder who. There were like rumors that maybe the young girl had overdosed and they panicked and tried to dispose of the body. But you wouldn't cut somebody's neck off. Like, come on, bro. Like, somebody overdosed and just because maybe, like, I don't know, maybe you're older and you gave them drugs, you cut their neck off and try to, like, hide their body. That sounds a little bit crazy, right? I don't know.